Welcome to the November 7th Select Board meeting. Just for point of interest here, we're going to take a couple, something out of order. We'll take item 3A out of order, then we'll go back into the agenda as it's printed. So we'll start on 3A. Because of what's going to be discussed there, I'm going to abstain from discussion and voting on anything on that. So Teresa will take over for that, then I'll pick it back up.
Consideration of Sherry Gagnon Courts update. Joe Crocker, Parks and Rec.
Joe Crocker, Parks and Recreation.
Joe, 1 second.
Yep.
He's just recusing himself from any kind of voting on that at all, but I asked him not to leave the room though, so that's why. Okay.
So I'm gonna just read what I wrote because it's gonna be easiest for me, and then Roger, one of our pickleball leaders, is gonna come up and say something. To the Raymond Select Board, I am honored to formally propose naming the tennis and pickleball courts at Sherry Gagnon Memorial Park as the Brenda Olson Tennis and Pickleball Facility. This suggestion comes with the full support of our pickleball community, who feel Brenda deserves this recognition for her unwavering dedication, volunteerism, and commitment to create a vibrant pickleball network in the town of Raymond. Through her efforts, players of all ages and skill levels have been able to enjoy the sport, from beginners to seasoned veterans. When Brenda Olson, alongside Donna Morton, initially proposed that pickleball group be incorporated under the Raymond Parks and Recreation Department, after taking over from their predecessor Lisa Smith, I anticipated a challenging organizational task for a small department. However, Brenda presented a clear and structured plan, laying a foundation for the program's success. Since then, we've witnessed remarkable growth in community engagement and program participation. Brenda also initiated beginner skill lessons, allowing newcomers to experience the sport without pressure, fostering a welcoming and enthusiastic environment. Under Brenda's coordination, the pickleball program has grown from 68 to 156 active participants, with over 400 members in our Team Reach app, with additional outdoor opportunities provided at Sherry Gagnon Memorial Park basketball court. Brenda's use of the Team Reach app has connected over 400 members, a testament to her leadership and organizational skills. The feedback from those who had worked with Brenda has been overwhelmingly positive, highlighting her impact on the community and the program's success. I personally have benefited greatly from Brenda's insights and collaborative approach, which have made decision-making more efficient and effective. Her dedication has been entirely selfless, never seeking personal gain or recognition. For all these reasons, it would be a privilege to honor Brenda Olson by dedicating the new courts as a Brenda Olson Tennis and Pickleball Facility on behalf of the town of Raymond. Thank you for consideration of this proposal. If Roger would like to say some words.
Good job. Thank you, Board. I'm Roger Bennett. I've lived on Deep Cove Road for the last 30 years. Wow, it's been a while. Growing up in town, I had a son that I raised. Teresa knows because Ben's the same age as my son. As parents, we get to see and interact with our kids as they're growing up. But once the kids grow up and get out of the house, us parents are pretty much homebound. We really had nothing to do. So I saw a sign down at the public safety building that they were starting pickleball. I thought, oh, I was a dialysis patient at the time. I was doing dialysis for 6 years. I now have a transplant, but I had no life. I had work and I had dialysis, and that was it. And other than that, I was a shut-in. So pickleball gave me the option to go do stuff. I came here, I knew nothing about pickleball. And if it wasn't for the tutelage of Donna and Brenda, I'd still be a shut-in right now, to be honest with you. So when the new courts are being built, which I thank you all for sponsoring and getting that in place, it's going to be phenomenal. I think that Brenda deserves the credit for bringing pickleball to so many of us. I could have filled this room times two with pickleball people. but I knew you had limited space. So, but all these people are all on the same page. We're all glad that we have our friendship, that we have a place to go to do things together, and it was because of Brenda. So I think she deserves, I'm not trying to take anything away from Sherry Gadigan. It still should be Sherry Gadigan's field. I'm just saying that the particular courts, I think it'd be really nice if you could, have some kind of plaque or something that said, in honor of Brenda Olson for all her hard work and dedication to getting us, people like me, out of the house. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Roger. Does anybody else have anything to say on this? All right. Rolf, do you want to stay in the room, or do you want to get out of the room while we vote? Told him I was going to boot him after that. All right.
Make a motion that we name the pickleball tennis court facility after Brenda Olson, as requested. The only thing I'm wondering about is whether you add memorial in there or not. That's the only thing I was thinking when I read it. That was the only other thing. I think it's a great thing.
Okay. I wouldn't be opposed to that verbiage.
Okay.
I think that.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Thank you very
Great.
much.
Thank you, guys. Yes. Thank you guys for all coming out tonight.
Thank you. That was
You
great.
can tell Rolfie can come back in now, too. Thanks. Thank
job.
you.
Come on down and play pickleball sometime.
Yeah. And play
We get a shirt?
You gotta play 5 games of
I don't even know how to play pickleball.
No, I don't either.
Maybe they could add-
But you
maybe-
have somebody
Dodgeball
teaching
or
down there too? Yeah, good.
I know, exactly. It'd be good.
I want to try it one of these days. I still haven't.
So we voted to do the plaque, and Dennis mentioned about having a memorial at the end. So we said, yeah. All right.
You're strong. I couldn't have helped myself.
No.
Hey,
All right, I'm going to hand it back to Rolf now.
next item, is there a motion to go into executive session?
A motion to go in executive session, discussion of personnel matters pursuant to MRSA 1, Section 405-6A.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? Motion is carried, we'll go into executive session. We're going
Who's out here?
to make it easier, we're gonna go into the back room so you people can stay out here
Great.
instead of having to go stand. Motion to come out of executive session?
Second.
All those in favor? We're back into regular meeting. Next item is consideration of Sebago Lakes Rotary Club Ice Fishing Derby. Ingo, you're on.
Good evening. My name is Ingo Hartig. I reside on Oakledge Road in Raymond, and I'm representing the Wyndham Rotary, Sebago Lake Rotary, and we're requesting another fishing derby next year on February 15 and 16.
Are you going to do the ice dance?
You're gonna do the ice dance ahead of
Yeah,
time so you can have
yes,
ice?
It's in order. We're working on it.
I'm going to make a motion to approve the Sebago Lake Rotary Club's Ice Fishing Derby, February 15th and 16th, hoping for lots of ice.
Second.
Yes, thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Motion is
Looking
carried.
forward to it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
look forward to some ice.
Yeah.
Okay. Next item is consideration of issuing a new business license to Elegant Spa.
And I don't see anyone here that looks like they are the owners.
but you do have the application. They did send an update. I'm not sure if you all saw it. I did send it out late this afternoon, but it, evidently they're going to have a massage therapist there, and they send along a copy of that license.
Right.
Her license expires 12/31/24 too, so it's not gonna be, it's gonna be soon that she's gonna have to redo it. But I'm also seeing a lot of things that have to be fixed there too, and I'm guessing, Wayne, that a lot of people, and not a lot of people, that building hasn't been occupied on that side for a while.
That side of the building hasn't been occupied at all.
Okay, so on the back of that building, because I know they're gonna be using the upstairs and downstairs, they have double doors that go out to a drop-off, and the only thing that's there is like a black bar or
Right.
whatever. Isn't that I guess illegal? I guess one would say probably maybe not the right word to have that, not have steps or something.
Right, they're gonna need to correct that, so that nobody can open up those doors and fall outside. And then, they've had a barricade in the past, on the outside of those doors, so that, if somebody went through the window, they wouldn't fall to the ground. So there's two things that they need to do there.
Okay, I just saw it on the back of the pictures that we got, and it was, yeah. And you think a deadbolt would be sufficient enough?
That and that barricade that they had previously.
Okay,
They had an outside metal,
it's like a black iron type thing?
Yeah,
Like a
yes.
fence railing type thing, okay.
And where is this again?
You know the new marijuana store that was switched over? It's on the right-hand side of it. It's in the same building, but it's on the right side.
Oh,
It says-
in front of Sebago Storage?
It's attached to it?
It's attached to it. Yeah. If, they had,
Okay.
he had sent, Mel, maybe they'd sent pictures. One of you
I
guys.
didn't
Yeah.
get any.
Oh, it came out, there was.
Oh, was
emailed
that
out
when the
this
name
afternoon.
change?
Oh, did it?
Yeah, that got emailed out.
Just, I think today maybe, but
Picture.
it's,
Oh, I read it, I didn't see
Yeah.
that.
okay, so it's it's the same building, but there's the smaller on the right and there's 2 stories on it, so it's still attached to it.
So that's the green spa is now the new, okay, never mind.
And parking and everything like that's fine. Wayne? Sorry.
Yes, parking seems appropriate to me anyways. You know, that's really not one of the things I check, other than, emergency vehicle access, and that's good.
Okay.
Asian
right.
Markets is the next strip mall up.
But just to follow that up, there are, like you said, there's a list of items that need to be completed before that business can open, because we gotta do another inspection there.
Have you established a timeline on those yet with them?
No, I haven't heard from them on any of these being completed, so that we can do that, set up that appointment. I believe that they're working on the place from, passing by and seeing activity inside the building. They had to build out walls. They had to add more smoke alarms for the fire alarm system. So I've seen work happening there. I just haven't been contacted to do a follow-up inspection.
So the alarm system, is that going to be like, I guess, like the same one? Is it required in the other half of the building also?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay.
It's actually a part of that. It's all one system for that building.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the business license application for Elegant Spa, contingent upon all of these things getting done and
And reinspection.
reinspect it, passing reinspection.
Is there a
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Motion is carried.
That is
The next item, consideration of change to the East Shore Tavern's liquor license.
Evening. Kyle Bancroft, East Shore Tavern.
Hi, sorry.
How are you?
So you want to switch from a restaurant lounge to a lounge?
Yeah, so the classification within the state allows for some variables between the licenses. What we're finding right now, and I'm sure that every time you turn the TV on or a news article, there's a lot of pressure within the industry. A lot of places, both new and old, been around decades now, are feeling the pressure of the economy kind of expanding and contracting. And what we're trying to do is just have some wiggle room in our establishment. Right now, we currently run our Class A restaurant lounge, and we're seeking to move to a Class A lounge. The difference between that is just full meals, essentially. Right now, we're offering more of a pub-style pub fare, what we'd like to offer. My issue has been staffing in the kitchen. I think that you're seeing a lot of that across the board. Staffing's hard to come by. The people that are willing to staff the kitchen are, asking huge money, and we've just been going at it for 4.5 years now. And we've really tried to, keep the food program and keep a full-size menu and really keep that, that restaurant style. But what we're finding is that no matter which angle that we take and which approach that we approach it at, the margins, even when done right, are very low. But in order to do them right, you need appropriate staff. You need people that are coming in and doing a good job for you. But you also need to balance on what you're paying these people. And I think that's the big disconnect between the people that hire these people and the people that want to be hired. At one point, I was paying my head chef $1,350 a week to run that small operation. I always paid well. I'm always willing to pay for good quality help, but that's just increasingly getting harder and harder to do. So what we're looking to do is still offer food. We're still a restaurant. We're still licensed through the state of Maine with a Tier 3 eatery license. We're just looking to be able to have some wiggle room in what we can do. So when we go into times like this that you're seeing now with other places that are closing, they're having a difficult time, we can retract and spend a little bit less on our overhead in the kitchen and be able to get through these low to be able to get back. Eventually, we'd like to get back to a full menu. It's just really out of my control at this point. It's how people are spending. It's where they're spending. The other issue is, the wholesale side of food is, still a very expensive aspect of the operation. And because of that, a lot of your local bar and restaurants are kind of forced into this box. You'll see that if you go to my place or any other places in Wyndham, similar items, maybe a small variation, but the problem is that we're boxed into that because of the amount that it costs to run a commercial kitchen. Behind just the labor that it costs, the wholesale food supply, there's a lot of just random things that have to go into a commercial kitchen to make it viable, and we're just finding it just increasingly tougher day by day to keep up with a high quality standard that you need to have the income from that kitchen, and then staffing and just trying to keep up with what's going on with the economy. We've seen less spending across the board, and again, you can't go a day without opening up a media outlet and seeing that another place is closing, and it's a tough time for the industry as a whole right now. So what we're trying to do, long and short, is this will still allow us to serve food. Chris and I had a conversation, Chris Hansen, about kind of the wording, the way it was. There was concern, is this allowed? In the state of Maine, you can run a restaurant without possessing a liquor license, but you cannot have a liquor license without having a restaurant license. So the wording within the code and the land use ordinance, there was some confusion there. But by default, everybody that has a liquor license is a restaurant first. You have to have that restaurant license. You have to have the commercial kitchen. You have to have that in place before we could even apply for a liquor license. So we would still be a restaurant. We're still licensed as a restaurant. We'll still be serving food. A couple things that change with the classification with the state of Maine is that it allows us to keep a little bit less stock on hand as far as what we have in our freezers and our coolers. And then it allows us to Right now, we're currently only serve food till 9 p.m., but we're allowed to be open till 1 a.m. That goes away, so we'll be serving food the whole time that we're open. So if there's any concerns about, food availability with the consumption of alcohol, that risk actually goes down, and the availability of food actually goes up. So that's the main component about seeking the classification change. It's not that we haven't tried. I mean, 4.5 years, we have thrown a lot of money into that operation. We have tried different angles. We've adjusted our menu to try to meet up with what our income and what our sales are saying, and we're just having a very difficult time keeping a full menu, keeping a full staff in the kitchen, and still being able to make ends meet on a monthly basis. So that's really what's pushing this, is that it's not that we're just trying to, serve alcohol and get rid of food, because that's not what happens here. We're just trying to make a decision as a business to be able to deal with the new economic kind of landscape that we're in as a whole in the industry.
Yeah, I hear you on that. Everybody's getting hit on that. I guess what you just said, though, I have a question on, because you're going from a Class A restaurant / lounge, taking out the restaurant and going to a Class A lounge. I think that's what I saw on the paperwork. Yes. So what technically then is different between a bar and a lounge?
So the big difference is instead of coming in and seeing a steak on the menu, seeing some, what we consider like a full sit-down meal, you're going to find hot dogs, chicken wings, onion rings, more of just a fast or casual type offering on our menu. So that's really the big difference. The difference is more or less on the state side and how they classify the license. One, the cost, and then the couple stipulations that I have told you, we can keep a little bit less stock on hand per seat. And then the requirements are a little bit less for the overall food sales. But essentially, we're the same operation. We're still going to be able to serve food much later than we have in the past. You're still going to be able to come in and enjoy a social atmosphere. So from like walking in standpoint, the only thing that'll be different is, the menu will be a little bit more on the lighter side, pub style, versus, a steak and potato type dinner, or a chicken and, with some sides and stuff like that.
Mayor, I read the literature. I don't know who provided it, whether the town manager did or Chris or you, but it was very good reading. And I thought the key that I picked up on was that minors wouldn't be allowed in there without supervision. In other words, a restaurant, a minor could go in and get a soda and fries or whatever. So that was a big change that I thought was important. And I, for one, don't want to see any business forced out. There's enough of them going out of business in restaurant work everywhere. So I liked the change. But as I was reading it, I was wondering if the town had say in this as far as the business goes, or whether the state would decide that. And so that's the only clarification I would want.
Yeah, I've talked to the Bureau of Alcohol, and they went as soon as, and I'm not quite sure the exact sequence of events, so if I get it wrong, Kyle, please correct me. But he brought his liquor license renewal in here. You folks considered it, approved it, contingent upon the fire inspection probably, and then that was complete, and then you sent it up to the state. And sometime just shortly after that, you requested of the state to change from a restaurant to a restaurant lounge to a lounge. So, and the state had said that because the select board approved that license renewal, that they should also approve the change to the license.
Okay.
There isn't another form there. There wasn't any application for you to see, but for them to make that change, it has to come back to the select board.
Chris, from the ordinance standpoint, at what point do we go, or where does it, how close does it get us to just a bar, which is not allowed under the ordinance?
Well, that's a great question, Rolf. We do not have a definition of a restaurant or a lounge in our ordinance. So I had a long conversation with the state. I think that because we don't define it, that it's still an allowed use as long as they serve food, as Kyle described. The big difference to me is, right now, if it was a Class A restaurant, they could, with a liquor license, a family can go in there and get served and go in there anytime. With this change, it'll be only people that are over 21 unless they're accompanied by an adult, and they cannot be served alcohol. So it is a difference, but I think it's an allowed use. I don't see anything that would disqualify it, and that's what the state wanted to know, is if it was allowed by our ordinance. In the future, if we want to clarify this, then we've got to put some definitions into the ordinance that describe a lounge or a restaurant. The materials that you were provided by Sue from the state gave the definitions according to the state. That's not in our ordinance. We have in our ordinance that you can have a restaurant is a permitted use, but it doesn't say lounge. So that's why I think it's a good discussion, but in my opinion, there's nothing that would disqualify Kyle from having this license as far as codes and zoning goes.
I guess hearing that, I would make a motion.
Yeah.
And
What do you guys serve right now?
Right now, we serve some burgers, hot dogs, chicken tenders, fried foods essentially, and that's what we're looking to kind of transition to, is just ease the staffing in the kitchen. Right now, I have it so one person can run the front and back, and that's what we're trying to get to, is just look at our staffing and our overhead and what we're paying out, because it's a slow time within the sector.
So you're already doing it.
I mean, to a certain extent, yes. But I mean, we're also meeting with, like I said, we have burgers, we have hot dogs. We're meeting that right now, but we'd like to, change up a few things. One of the things was it's a fork and knife type deal, is what they describe within the state. We want to try to get away from that.
So you have one person on the bar and cooking hamburgers in the back while
Absolutely.
the bar is still going.
Yeah. We have to do what we have to do. We're a small operation, and that's what we're just fighting to be able to get through this lull. We know that this isn't going to last forever, and that this isn't, an end all be all. But at this time, we're just forced into, making decisions. How can we bring this organization down to a lower overhead and then weather the storm? I think that this winter is going to bring a lot more closures, and we've seen the writing on the wall for a little while now. This summer was not a blockbuster summer for us or across the board. I mean, I speak with a lot of people within the industry, and then my bartenders that, have different jobs elsewhere, and it's been tough. It wasn't what people hoped it was going to be for the summer, and then we're not even in the winter. I mean, we've had a really mild fall, and we're still seeing a lot of trouble across the board. So yeah, we're running it with one person. I'm there. If it increases, I'm 1.2 miles away most of the time. So I, run down and I fill the voids wherever I can. But yeah, we're running a skeleton crew down there to try to just maintain and keep pushing on to greener pastures.
Sorry.
Yeah. Will this require you have to do any signage changes or?
No, we're going to maintain the same name. The only difference, like I said, is it's in the state. It's how we're classified with our license. That really is the.
Well, I'm just thinking from the standpoint of someone driving by thinking it's a restaurant now, and it wouldn't be.
Well, we had gone through that, and that's why we went with the name and rebranded about a year ago, East Shore Tavern. So it doesn't kind of, the cafe would be into, food, and that's what it's always, what I mean, like more of a just restaurant and not the other side, the social, the stuff that we bring in, the karaoke. So no, I don't think so. I think we maintain the same name, same brand, and just kind of weather the storm.
I know Dennis did a motion, but.
Please get a motion. It hasn't been seconded yet.
Right, I guess I just discuss a little bit more.
Okay. I
All right.
thought we discussed.
But I mean, you can
motion, but-
discuss once the motion's on the table anyway.
Well,
So.
right,
I have no problem with keeping discussion because I found it very interesting reading, trying to find the fine line.
well, here's where I'm at on it, and unfortunately, every time somebody brings us something new, it's that person that's there. So we did the same thing with the solar panels. We did the same thing with the recreational marijuana thing. And now the latest on the agenda is the Airbnbs. So who's to say, since we don't have it in our ordinances now about bars, lounges, and whatever, what's to change, what's to stop you from changing it to a bar, I guess? So, and what do we do as a board to say, what do we want in our town about allowing that and not, is where I'm getting
Well,
at.
that makes sense, except, it doesn't the state check with food?
It does,
percentage
yes,
of
and
food?
there's a food requirement. So
Yeah.
by default, and that's what the problem is, that with the way that it's written in your land use is restaurant, and that's why I brought up, is that before I'm allowed, or anybody in the state of Maine is allowed to apply for a liquor license, we need to be licensed as a restaurant. So first and foremost, we're a restaurant. And then from there, you can apply for a liquor license to be able to serve that. It's an add-on to the restaurant. So at the end of the day, regardless if we serve alcohol or not, we're licensed as a restaurant. So that's where I think that, me being on the planning board even, I think that it covers everything. If you wanted to question, it's more or less two separate issues. It's how the state classifies the license and then the fee for it, and then how you have it in your land use. But I think from my standpoint, in the way that it reads and the way I understand it, is that restaurant will cover anything, and then you can have your debate. If you want to switch, obviously that's up to the planning board to add some more, but we are technically a restaurant first before, and there's no such thing as a bar in the state of Maine. You cannot get a license to serve alcohol without a restaurant license. It's forbidden.
So those bars down on Commercial Street and whatever else in Old Port are
The
not
way you can
bars?
circumvent that is if you run underneath my license, which is a Class A restaurant, Class A lounge, you can pay extra to just serve food until 9 p.m. So you just open at 9 p.m. Now down in the Old Port, that's not a problem. So you go 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. If you want to just serve alcohol, you've now circumvented that. So that's how you get. But otherwise, no, there is no other way to be licensed for alcohol in the state of Maine without having a restaurant license first. It's
Right.
impossible.
So again, but with that being the case, is there something that we would want to discuss more on about that?
We're going to review the license in a year, aren't we?
His?
Licenses
Yes.
are always,
Isn't it an annual review?
yeah.
And we're not extending it, we're just going to allow the change until, were you in here 2 months ago?
Yeah, roughly. Yep.
So 10 months from now, we'll be able to talk about it again. My thought is, and I know this sounds awful, but if you can't survive and you're doing everything you can to survive, a slight change like this may not keep you alive, but it may help you to go a little bit longer. So my thought is, the food menu changed. I stopped going in there. That's the truth. I mean, I go in and have a beer, but I'm not a big drinker.
Sure.
And so I think with changes, whether they survive or not, it's not going to be because of this. So I don't want to be part of a.
And we're also not
hindrance for
looking to,
business.
we're not looking to have this bar. I mean, our atmosphere is a social atmosphere. We have the pool tables, we bring in the karaoke. We're still going to have we're not looking to switch this up so we can just serve alcohol and be, this is just a necessary move as a business owner.
I mean,
that we need to be able to
If
expand.
I'm reading it, the biggest difference that you get into is if it's classed as the restaurant, a Class A restaurant, at least 10% has, you're at a certain percentage, which you don't have if it's just the lounge.
Sure.
So, I mean, it really comes down to what percentage of food has to be served with the one license versus the other.
And what does DHHS have to do with this?
They're licensed through the restaurant.
Yeah.
So when I license for a restaurant, that's who inspects my facility.
Really?
Yep. Department of Health and Human Services is responsible for all of that. So
Wow.
the inspector actually works with DHS. When he comes in, he does his yearly inspection, which we did. I think he was in for a no-knock, inspection a month and a half ago or so. We did well on that. So yeah, that's who we deal with. And that's who we license. Like I said, from the get-go is before we can get to alcohol, we have to be a restaurant. We have to be inspected, and we have to pass through all those requirements before I can even apply.
I'm seeing Mel's eyes, and she's just like, all you can see is her eyes and the top of her head. She's sitting there going like this the whole time.
I have a question for Chris. Chris, this is obviously new. It's new territory, and as I said, I don't want to be responsible for closing a business premature to whatever happens. But if a year from now, or the planning board or the ordinances were to look at the percentage of food, could the town put in a minimum of 5% or a minimum of 7% on food sales, even if it was fingers or hamburgers or whatever? Or is that a state? Do you know if that's a state?
I believe
sorry?
that, I
I don't know.
believe
I don't
that's
know.
state.
Well,
So that'd be state, okay.
It's a state, but it all, to do what what you just suggested brings in a whole another level, because
We'd be monitoring.
then you need monitoring
Okay.
enforcement,
Thanks for that.
Which-
Forget it.
which is a whole different
Yeah, all
level.
right. I'm not into it. I just was curious if that was available, because, I mean, one thing I've read a lot is to try to support the businesses in the community, and that's how I feel. I mean, if this is going to be necessary to keep you afloat.
So, I mean, there's a motion, it hasn't been seconded. Is there a second to the?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Could I
Yeah.
clarify just one thing that Dennis just asked?
Yeah.
On the whole, with statutes, the town can be slightly more stringent than the state. We can never be more lenient. So that's where we could potentially do that, but then, like Ralph said, it gets down to the enforcement.
Right.
Wayne has something.
Wayne has something, and then I just have a question on the hours. So the hours changing, or are they staying the same? Or?
Right now, we operate from 3 to 1, and that will continue to operate within that time frame. We might open back up at noontime. Again, it's really about the staffing. Staffing's just tough right now. So if we can do that, what I was doing was I was running 2.
You're not looking to do 9 to 1?
No, I mean we were running 12 to 1, and what it did was it broke up.
No, I mean 9 p.m. 1.
Yeah, no, we can't, because we get a lot of the locals. I mean, they're coming in after work, they're unwinding, they're seeing their friends, they're playing pool. It's that social environment, even at that time of day. So we were running from 12 to 1, but what we did was we had to split the shifts with staff. So we'd have somebody work 12 to 5, and then 5 to 1, because that's a very long shift. So with our shortage, we said, how do we bring this down to one single shift that makes sense? And it's still a 10-hour shift for our, whoever's working, but I need one person per day versus 2, or I'm not trying to get that one person to work 13 hours in a day, which is, impossible, and I wouldn't want to do it either,
Other
Wayne.
discussion?
Wayne had Wayne had his hand up.
Wayne?
Yes. Yes, to the board. I just wanted to make a point of clarification. When we were before the board previously, there were some items that needed to be corrected, and since that time, those items have been corrected, and I just wanted to make sure you had that on the record for fire and life safety.
Thank you, Wayne.
I guess the only other cautionary thing I'd say, with the change of the menu that you're looking at, you may want to consider doing your grease hood cleaning more often.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, we're honest. We got a new company that has done very well. I mean, the trouble that we had in the past. This company has been good. So we're hoping to maintain that relationship with them and just keep it on par. So Mr. Jones keeps happy, and it keeps the rest of you guys happy.
Because the thing that's always in the back of my mind was Hala Mexicana.
Yeah. No, I think Wayne probably thinks about that a lot too.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded, and no further discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Congratulations on your win also.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
Okay, next item is an update on the marijuana growth complaint. Sue has had some discussions with the town, so she just wants to update us on what she's learned.
I have been digging into the state, or actually I've talked to the state. There's an Office of Cannabis Policy is the name of the office. I believe it used to be the Office of Marijuana Policy, but they've expanded a bit. There have been some recent law changes, and the state office sent me the memo that I included in your e-packet that talks about this, and I just saw actually a piece on the news about it as well.
I saw that too.
Yeah, with caregivers, there is a lot of confidentiality around what they're doing and how many plants and all that sort of thing. There's a lot of their data is confidential. So we do have to be very careful about that, and I think that was outlined in the memo as well. And there isn't a lot of regulation around that. There are things that I've found that the town can do if we want to have an ordinance that would, for instance, some towns have said there would be no open grows, there would only be grows in buildings, and that they would have to have air filters for exhaust and things of that nature. So there's things like that that the town could potentially look into. And I'm still gathering information, so I haven't, this is a beginning, but I did want to give an update because the gentleman came last meeting to chat.
Biango. But if we were to make some ordinance changes and do that, would the people that already have them, would they be grandfathered?
Yeah,
Well, I think that's,
pretty sure
that
that would be.
legal would have to weigh in on things like that.
Yes.
because,
Well,
It's-
don't they get licensed every? They have to get they have to
Well,
renew their license, correct?
I mean, you
Oh,
know,
that's a
and
good
these
point.
are also questions that, you know, I mean, we're still trying to get someone from the state to come in
Yes.
to
They
a
didn't-
meeting,
they
so we can,
haven't
you know,
come
so,
back to me.
I mean, these are questions that are best posed to them because they're in the position to look at it from, because if they were to impose some rules that flowed down, then that
different.
carries a little different.
They're looking
Waiting.
too after that big fire. It looks like the state's trying to
So, I
change the
mean,
rules.
You know, if you try and do something retroactively, that opens up all kinds of issues.
Yes, it
And
does.
that is very problematic. But the state has more leeway on some of the things that they can do than we mere mortals do.
Yes.
Well, this was interesting reading, and obviously I'd love to have someone come in from the state to clarify some of it. One thing that I found interesting is it said that in this new change, August 9th of this year, says this new definition encompasses more kinds of retail locations than the previous definitions, includes offices used by registered caregivers. And they put that in parentheses, so I assume they're calling people's offices in their home where they come in and they give the marijuana or sell the marijuana. And then they go down a little bit further and it talks about the only exception to this local authorization requirement is grandfather provision for registered caregivers who were operating a retail store. So I do think,
Yeah, but we don't have retail in.
I know,
in Raymond.
that's what I'm saying, that the only thing that is in here is that office sales, which is probably one of the biggest concerns that people roll in.
I think that was on retail too, wasn't it?
Well, it called it office rather than retail stores, and I think when they emphasized it, it was people selling from their home. So I do think there's going to be some, I'm not saying right now, but I think once they start enforcing some of this stuff, I think the town would be wise to look at, even though it's inconvenient to wade into this sort of thing, it's also very inconvenient to have to smell this every fall. And so.
It's more than just fall. I mean, those crops.
Yeah, they're every 3
Yeah.
months.
Really? It's getting that much?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm out of touch, and I grew up there in those years.
Yeah, I mean, they'll crop those out over 3 or 4 months.
Wow.
Other towns have ordinances.
So, I mean, it's,
So, Mr. Chair, I'd like to weigh in on this.
yeah,
This is Chris.
Yeah.
I'm quite familiar with this marijuana ordinance. I dealt with it quite a bit in Wyndham and also here in Raymond. What the state says is, for anybody to have a retail marijuana store, which caregivers are allowed to do by the state statute, the town has to have an ordinance that allows and has opted in to the marijuana ordinance part of the state statute. So if we have not opted in, so everything that we have in Raymond is grandfathered. We only have 2 or 3, I think it's only 2 retail medical marijuana stores. We have no adult use medical marijuana stores. So what the state says is if you're a medical marijuana caregiver, you have the right to have a retail store to sell your product. But because we haven't opted in, we can't allow that.
Correct.
So the 2 medical marijuana dispensaries or retail stores that we have, they have to get a local authorization form signed by the town, which we've done for the grandfathered facilities. So if you don't do anything, we're not going to have any more. If you want to explore having a marijuana ordinance in the future that would address the retail stores, whether it's medical or adult use, or you want to address the conditions of approval for a medical marijuana grow or an adult use medical grow, then you can have stipulations as to meeting setbacks, odor control, and a multitude of other issues that can be addressed by having an ordinance. To do that, you're going to have enforcement. And the hardest thing to do is like noise or odors. How do you truly enforce that? You can smell it one day, you go up the next, you can't. It's just like noise. By the time you get up there for a loud party, it's gone. So this is something we can discuss further, but right now we don't need to do anything. And the businesses continue to operate the way they are. But I think Dennis's question, I think what you were asking is, if we do enact an ordinance, is it going to be retroactive? Well, not necessarily. But if you have, if you adopt odor control, that any of the outdoor grows have to be in an enclosed, even if it's a hoop house, and you control the ordinance with carbon scrubbers or whatever they do to control the odor, you can have a stipulation that says to get that local authorization, you have to have those in place. So you could address odor and by enacting an ordinance, but it's going to take time. So that's it's a discussion for later on, but I just want to throw it out there that it's a big task to try to wrap your head around, because not only do you have to enact the ordinance, then you have to enforce it.
I'm not looking to wade into that, Chris. I was really asking if they can sell from their home.
Yeah, this one is not one of the grandfathered ones. This one is on the Tenny Hill.
And if they're selling it from home, which is one of the gentlemen complained about.
It is a grandfathered one. They have a medical marijuana license. They've been in business before 2018. They are grandfathered.
But not for retail.
But they cannot sell. They can sell from their home.
Okay, that's what I was asking.
That's what he was asking.
But they don't have what you call a retail store. This is where you get into the weeds of the definitions by the state. Anybody can have a medical marijuana license and sell wherever they want. But they're allowed to have an office where they sell, like in downtown Raymond, they could have a retail store, but they can't because we never opted in. In Wyndham, they can because Wyndham opted in, and there are conditions with those facilities.
Right, and that's something we had talked about a couple years ago, and the town have voted to opt in. But what it is saying on here is the new definition they have on here is offices. So everybody that has a so-called office and that is a caregiver, they are registered with the town of Raymond. So you have every caregiver registered through the code?
Absolutely not.
No, they're registered.
No, through the
They're
state.
registered through the state.
That they're only registered through the state.
Okay, so
And we can't, and this is a recent law change, Chris, that I don't know if you've heard of, but I haven't had a chance to talk with you, but the location of caregivers is completely protected information right now, completely confidential. No municipal employee can talk about the exact location of a caregiver.
Well, I thought they just said on here that they're going to start having a list. Did you read that? They're going to have a list
They do have a
of
list,
every person?
but it doesn't include their addresses. Is what the Office of Cannabis Policy told me.
So what you're talking about is confidentiality.
Yes, exactly.
That's not talking about their ability to sell.
That's
or not
correct.
sell.
It's just that we have to be careful as how we're talking about
Because
it.
they're, what they're doing is they're invoking parts of AHIP, not
The
AHIP.
HIPAA,
HIPAA into there.
Yeah, HIPAA,
Because
they
it's classed as medical.
that's correct.
Okay, so it says here, the new law makes public most information regarding registered caregivers, dispensaries, manufacturing facilities, or testing facilities operating in the medical cannabis program, and creates specific exceptions for certain kinds of information. Specifically, the new law exempts from disclosure the personal contact information of registered caregivers. It also makes confidential the home address of it. Okay.
Well, what I heard clearly from Chris is we don't want to wade into it, and you already have. I was
We
just
did.
asking questions
We
about.
did, we're not.
Could they be selling from their home legally? And it sounds like Chris said yes, and when isn't something we have authority to get into, whether it's 2 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock at night. So with that, I'm ready to move on.
All right.
Yeah, Dennis, this is a big bite of an apple. It's a lot of work.
That apple
But I mean,
has seven.
It's not, I'm not saying that we shouldn't do it. It's just tread lightly until you decide you want to.
But I mean, at the end of the day, we're trying to get to, we're still trying to get someone from the state that can come in here so we can
Help this
put these
gentleman or whoever
questions
else,
out
yeah.
there so that people can get a better idea of what's allowable, what's not allowable, and make sure, so that people have a better idea of what's going on. Okay. Next item, public comment. Peter.
DJ.
Peter Levitt, 2 Levitt Road. So I just heard the operative word, which is enforcement. So what I'll do is speak to you from the perspective of the comprehensive plan. I'm just looking up at the board here. I see my wife is on. She told me to check first because she wants to also say something on this. But I'm going to, talk on the perspective of the comprehensive plan. It was identified early on, over 2 years of data collection, that one of the top 4 concerns of the community is some sort of traffic calming efforts. I know everyone must be aware of the tragedy that took place on October 30th. There were 2 Raymond residents, an elderly couple, that were killed in a head-on collision on Egypt Road. What I'm speaking basically of as far as traffic calming is concerned is this. I've tried my best to speak to as many empowered individuals in the town as possible, from this body, the Budget Finance Committee, also spoke to the Planning Board. It always comes down to the same thing, which is, it's enforcement. And so just in response to a couple of those things, I know I'm preaching to the choir, and I understand that. But we're talking about now, and I also heard the term earlier from the fire personnel, it's life safety is what we're talking about. So we need to be careful about not getting into a situation where there are bars open 24/7 and casinos and all that other sort of stuff in town. And the fact that that there could be an automobile accident associated with that. But the bottom line is what we do know from the community is that it's grown more and more intolerable. And I have heard from individuals in these different committees say such things as, and this confuses me a little bit when I speak about it, signs aren't going to change things. Well, I don't necessarily agree with that. And what the data shows is that signs will change things. Will signs solve all of the problems? No. Will putting a different type of road construction in town, that especially in areas where there's transitions from high speed to low speed, like school zones or the village area, will narrowing streets or widening shoulders, will they solve the problem? No. But will they have an effect? Yes, they will. Obviously, all of these things cost money. The ultimate would be, what everybody seems to agree with, is that if there was more of a police presence on our roads, that would go a long way to solving the issues. I spoke maybe a week and a half ago to the town manager and expressed my concern and asked, what can a municipality do in order to get more in the way of police presence on our roads. And basically what we did is commiserated a little bit, but said that, it would be up to the town to reach out to the sheriff, Cumberland County, and see about a contract officer. Some communities have already done that. Knowing full well that there are limited resources through the sheriff's office to provide those contract deputies. What I have knowledge of is several surrounding communities that have done that. So it's not impossible. Obviously, that's going to cost money. I don't know, really, what the appetite of the town is. I know that decades back we talked about a police department, and the appetite of the town at that time was no. We don't want to have that cost. I think what we're talking about is life safety. I believe anybody that knew the Harmons or a relative of the Harmons would say any amount of money would have been better than that outcome. Also, I've had individuals say, well, you know, Peter, we don't know. You know, it could have been a medical emergency behind the wheel. You know, it could have been the little rainfall that we had brought enough oil onto the surface of the road to cause a careful driver to just lose control. Anyway, what's the resolution process? The resolution process is this. I spent about an hour and a half today, spoke to 7 individuals at Cumberland County about how can I get this information, what's the deal, what's the status of the investigation, and I got basically transferred from one individual to another, to another, to another. 6 individuals. The last individual I got a hold of was actually the most helpful, and she's a detective with Cumberland County, and she was referred to me as being the detective that is on the investigation of the Egypt Road tragedy. What she told me was, well, you know, actually, I'm no longer on that case. But she did give me the number of the detective that is on the case now. And what I got was, I got the case number, that it's under investigation, no surprise, 6 to 8 weeks for them to reconstruct the accident and come down with a determination of what the causality was. And so that was helpful. So at least I have that information, and knowing that that's going forward. What I did come across was an interesting number. From 2022 to date, there have been 40 accidents on Egypt Road recorded by Cumberland County sheriffs. 40. I went a little further and looked and found that Maine DOT identifies that 8 accidents or more over a 3-year period is considered a high-risk road. So I guess my question would be, Cumberland County are well aware that Egypt Road is a high-risk road. You know, I mean, tell us something we didn't know. But the numbers there, they meet that definition multiple times over. And so my question, I guess, would be to anyone that would listen is, and I pose this question to the Cumberland County, what's being done about that? Well, you know, it's the same everywhere. You know, everyone's experiencing, although the number of traffic incidents are down, fatalities are up. I'm not saying that all 40 of these accidents, and what I was told is, you know, the majority of those are people just skidding off that road. There's no shoulder. It's dark. It's a major thoroughfare between Raymond and Gray and the Turnpike and all of that. We know all of that stuff, but they're aware of it. But there really is no plan of action. You know, they couldn't give me any information. I've heard some speculation from basically secondhand individuals that knew the person that actually witnessed the accident, that describes an accident that leaves, if it's true, leaves nothing in my mind that this was totally negligence. But once again, Cumberland County is going to be very careful in not saying anything like that, because this could be huge liability with vehicular manslaughter and the like down the road, insurance companies, $1 million lawsuits for loss of life and all that other good stuff. So I appreciate all of that. I'm saying even if the determination comes back that this was a medical emergency, and let's say that hypothetically this individual didn't drive recklessly, pass a car on Egypt Road, lose control, go off onto the shoulder on the other side, regain enough control to get back onto the road on Egypt Road. Unfortunately, it was just at that time that the Harmons were traveling towards Raymond from Gray that they came head on with this driver. But that's all speculation. We'll find out. But regardless of how it happened, the bottom line is we see every day violations with larger vehicles and higher speed on our roads. So I know my wife wants to ask some other questions, and she's actually been talking to everybody that she can. So I'll definitely let her have an opportunity here. But I just tell you that in the chapter on transportation, in the current draft comprehensive plan, it has been identified by the consultants and the committee on the high-risk roads in Raymond. You know, take that for what it's worth. I think when you read it, you'll say, yeah, tell me something I didn't know. The bottom line is, right now, in my opinion, all the roads in Raymond are high risk. And we really need to move on doing something about it. It will cost money. I would definitely recommend that we start at the lower level of interventions and then work our way up. And I think that is about it for me. So thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Peter.
Grace?
Thank you. Peter said some of the things that certainly I would have brought up, so I'll try to be brief. I'll just say that in the space of fewer than 5 days last week, I was passed twice when I'm going the speed limit and someone's going over a double yellow line. One of the times was in the afternoon when I was going to pick up my granddaughter, so that certainly startled me. Another time was an evening that we were going out, it's dark, and the car that passed us must have been going 70 miles an hour on Raven Hill Road, and we were going the speed limit. And there's just no way that had a deer stepped out in the road in front of them, there's just no way that that wouldn't have also ended up in another tragedy. I'm hearing from more and more people that they are really concerned about the speeding. You've heard it a number of times. I've spoken about this a number of times at your meetings. I'll keep coming to the meetings and I'll keep bringing it up until some actions start to be taken to help. Nothing's going to solve it entirely, I understand that, but anything that might help to prevent yet another tragedy would certainly be worth the effort. I know we heard at least 2 months ago, maybe it was 3 months ago, that we had one of those signs that would show that you're speeding and slow down, but it needed a part to be fixed. I don't know what's happened with that. We also had heard, again, it was either 2 or 3 months ago, that we could possibly borrow those signs. I don't know if anything's been done on that front. I would certainly hope that something has and that we start to see those around the town a little bit to help with this. It's just incredibly, incredibly concerning. I had noticed that the lines had not been painted, but they just today I was out on Egypt Road again, and they have been recently. So that's because that does help, because they really were in need of that. I hope that's true in other roads in the town. I haven't been on all roads by any stretch, but I know that 85 also had a lot of spots where the lines were not very visible and needed to be repainted. A lot of places have those, it's kind of a triangular sign that it says when you were able to be passing and now you've got a double yellow line again, it says no passing. You know, it's, maybe we need more signs like that as well. I'm glad to reach out to Department of Transportation and help nag them as well, but I think it has to also start from our select board, that we start seeing something being done to help prevent any more tragedies. Certainly we don't want anything like what just happened that Peter spoke about earlier. And last but not least, when the school bus was stopped in front of our house, granddaughter got off, and somebody went right past the school bus with the lights flashing. So they have the camera, but again, if they were going slow enough to begin with, notice the flashing lights, maybe they would have stopped. And fortunately, nothing horrific happened, but it just seems like it's a matter of time before we're talking about children being hurt, other drivers being hurt, and it's just so unnecessary. Hopefully we can start to really increase awareness about how this is really become a problem, and we can start seeing the problem reduced. So again, I hope that those signs that we could either borrow or get repaired start showing up around the town and help to just remind people to obey the speed limits, to be careful, to watch out for school buses, certainly, and we can start enjoying the town again. It's a beautiful town. You want to be able to go out where there's enough space on the shoulder to maybe even take a walk. That'd be great. I know a lot of people have stopped doing that because they are so concerned with the traffic. But again, the fact that I was passed twice in less than a week, there's just no need to be going that fast. I mean, please, let's just be careful. Thank you for listening to me ramble on. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Grace.
Actually, they have brought it up quite a few times. Would it be appropriate to make a motion to have that?
Not under public comment, it's not.
Okay, yes, yes.
We can put it on as an agenda.
Yeah, I think that's probably the way to go.
Yeah.
Other public comment? Okay. Selectman comment?
I'd just like to add one thing to Grace Levitt's discussion there. I hate to outdo you, Grace, but I was passed twice in front of the school when it was 15 miles an hour during the school day. Twice. So.
Well,
I see a cop up there every time I go through, though.
I'm going to add to Grace, too, on this one, because we just had it. We had 2 kids on the side of the road that just stepped down off the bus, and this just happened 2 days ago. And a red car flew right through. So what happens is I talked to the bus driver and call the school. Anybody that has that, call the school, call the bus garage, 892-1809, and complain and tell them that you want the cameras, because once the buses are stopped and the stop sign is out, they have a camera coming, getting it in the front of the bus and on the back. And we think we have the person's license plate number of this one. So what they're doing, as I said, and I was a pain at it, Grace. I said, I want to know what you guys are doing about this, because it happens a lot. We stand right down on the side of the road, and I think if Colleen was in the road too, as she stares them down, she would have gotten hit on this one, because this guy was not, or female was not paying attention. So I hear you on that one. Totally hear you. And congratulations to Rolf.
Thank you.
And Craig Messenger, you guys did a great job. You really did. Yes.
Other selectman comment?
Yes, I think, I think we all feel the same way as both Peter and his wife. I get passed on Raymond Cape Road, and there is no straightaway on Raymond Cape Road, and it is crazy. And I used to remember the public works director saying all the time, I don't work there in the summer. One of my crew would get killed. And I always thought that was kind of a cop-out, and I said that to him. Well, all the roads are dangerous. Well, I understand it more and more now, because there's usually a line of people, and we call it the Fry Island Express, that come down, and you see quite a change. But without being critical, I have driven on this road right here. I have a friend down at the bottom of the hill, down where you live. And when they pass you on that hill, when you're trying to, before you put your blinker on to turn into someone's driveway, it is scary. I mean, I'm telling you, they have blown me away as fast as they drive on that road compared to even 302. Is if there's one place that I would start with the signs, it would either be there or Main Street. And I think we've heard it enough that I hope it does go on the agenda the next time around.
One wonders whether signs would do any good.
No, it's just a matter of, as I said, it starts to make people aware that you're doing 55 as opposed to 25.
Only 55? I think it was a lot faster.
I'm talking about Main Street.
You ought to live there, down there on Saturday night. Oh, my God.
Oh, it's crazy.
Spooky.
Anyway, that's my opinion.
Any other selectman comment? The only other comment that I would make is I did stand out in front of the school all day on Tuesday, and I will say that it was great to see so many people show up to vote. And it was great to see how efficiently they were moved through there. So the election people did a great job in there. So
Everybody was complaining in the state of going.
I mean, when you look at some of the problems they had in Wyndham and other places, we had no problems there, and things just moved through smoothly. So great job.
Right.
I agree.
Yep.
Yeah. Nice going.
Town manager's report.
Really nice scarves.
Be good.
Scarves. Never mind.
Yeah, you'd have to see the back of my office door to get that one. So One thing I want to mention is that I want to send thanks out to the fire department personnel that dealt with that accident last week. That's a huge undertaking. It was a lot of time, a lot of anguish, and but they did it very professionally, did a wonderful job, and I really thank them for that type of service as well. That's difficult. And Mel has something she wants to share about the election.
Yeah, I just wanted to take the time to echo your comment about the election. So it is impossible to run an election without a giant crew of people, including over here my side. So I wanted to call out some people that definitely helped in big and small ways, because I'm very appreciative. So we had 35 different Raymond residents who helped on either Monday and or Tuesday to help pull this off, and like I said, it's impossible to do that without that help. So thank you to all 35 of those people. The Public Works crew did set up and breakdown on Monday afternoon and then Tuesday night, and then also even more on Wednesday morning before school started. I want to specifically thank Nathan White. I've already thanked him about 100 times in person. He worked a full 18-hour day with me, starting the day by helping to bring over the last-minute stuff first thing in the morning, and stayed with us at the town office after. While we worked to get the results out. He refused to leave until we all left, to make sure that everybody left okay. He checked in several times. He was the one who kept in touch with the sheriff and dispatch when the swatting calls started coming in. He called me immediately and made sure that everything was okay and that we were safe. And then he called them to make sure that they knew that we were safe and that to try to find out what they knew. So grateful for that. One less thing for me to have to worry about. Sue Carr, our warden, pulled a full day on Tuesday also. She's amazing. She knows exactly what she's doing and couldn't do it without her. The IT crew set up and took down all the tech that I needed for the day. The fire chief and the deputy chief, between the two of them, they were there on site the entire day as kind of some added security, so to speak. They answered the call literally at the last minute. Some election workers had expressed their concern about safety for the day, because just worldwide threats or nationwide threats to the system on election day, and they, like I said, stepped up last minute, and between the two of them were there all day. Sue Look, thank you, providing moral support through the whole process, and guidance for my very tired brain at the end of the night to help keep me on track. Teresa, thank you. Yeah, you.
For what?
You checked in with me several times throughout the day, making sure that everything was running smoothly. You offered to jump in and help if needed. Very much appreciated. Melissa, Jason, and Joe, they offered and or physically did deliver things back and forth, because it's really hard to leave once I'm set up over there. Jenny and Cindy held down the fort at the town office for the entire day without any support from myself and Sue Carr, because we were tied up at the election. They spent the entire day sending voters to the right place. People kept trying to go there to register, and they said that was the most that they did all day, was send people up the street. And like I said, I literally cannot run an election without all of that kind of help, and I am eternally grateful. It was a record high for turnout. There were actually exactly 100 more voters that showed up for this election, between absentee and in person, than voted in the 2020 presidential election here in town. We did 200 at least new voter registrations on the day of.
Wow.
And it helped with that. And I in addition to holding down the fort at the town office, the clerk's office staff issued 1,338 absentee ballots. Most of those were done in person, and it was bananas. And they handled it very well, and I am impressed and grateful and very tired.
Wow. Wow. Thanks,
Excellent.
seriously, thanks for all the
you.
work.
Thank you.
Oh, my goodness.
And I will say Mel did leave one person out. Mel did a fantastic
yourself, yes.
job. She's been involved with elections, and she's been a clerk for a long time, or deputy clerk for a long time. To go in to, you're the first time you are completely responsible for everything for a presidential election is huge. And Mel did it with a smile on her face. Sometimes it was one of these smiles, but still, she did it with a smile on her face. She's met every deadline that the state has had. She has a lot more to do. She is nowhere near done. It takes about 2 months after the election for a clerk to finish with all of the statutory requirements after an election. So Mel will still be very, very busy, and that's one of the reasons you didn't have minutes to approve on your agenda. I told her, no, don't do those yet. You've got more than enough to do with the presidential election. So, but she did a bang-up job and jumped right in. She didn't know any of the people here. She didn't know any of it, and she has done fantastic, and I thank her for that.
You look very, very held together when I saw you afterwards. I mean, you were kind of like ducking underneath, and then you grab the tape, and then you grab another box, and at one moment you're like, okay, back under the wires, yes. So you looked very, very held together, so yes, thank you.
Oh, other than that, you have meetings coming up.
Oh, right.
December 10th is the next, and then January 14th, 2025. We're almost there.
December what?
December 10th
December 10th.
would be the normal second
Do we have
Tuesday.
anything big going on that would maybe take a month off?
We'll see.
We'll see.
Okay.
I might not be.
And we will be closed for Thanksgiving. That's also on your agenda. And the day after.
Actually, no, I'll be here for that.
And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.